As the long dry summer withered to its roots, the school term of Red Gulch, to use local euphemism, dried up also. In another day Miss Mary would be free, and for a season, at least, Red Gulch would know her no more. She was seated alone in the schoolhouse, her cheek resting on her hand, her eyes half closed in one of those daydreams in which Miss Mary, I fear, to the danger of school discipline, was lately in the habit of indulging. Her lap was full of mosses, ferns, and other woodland memories. She was so preoccupied with these and her own thoughts that a gentle tapping at the door passed unheard, or translated itself into the remembrance of far-off woodpeckers. When at last it asserted itself more distinctly, she started up with a flushed cheek and opened the door. On the threshold stood a woman, the self-assertion and audacity of whose dress were in singular contrast to her timid, irresolute bearing. Miss Mary recognized at a glance the dubious mother of her anonymous pupil. Perhaps she was disappointed, perhaps she was only fastidious, but as she coldly invited her to enter, she half unconsciously settled her white cuffs and collar, and gathered closer her own chaste skirts. It was, perhaps, for this reason that the embarrassed stranger, after a moment's hesitation, left her gorgeous parasol open and sticking in the dust beside the door, and then sat down at the further end of a long bench. Her voice was husky as she began. "I heard tell that you were going down to the bay tomorrow, and I couldn't let you go until I came to thank you for your kindness to my Tommy." Tommy, Miss Mary said, was a good boy, and deserved more than the poor attention she could give him. "Thank you, miss, thank you," cried the stranger, brightening even through the color which Red Gulch knew facetiously as her war-paint, and striving, in her embarrassment, to drag the long bench nearer the schoolmistress. "I thank you, miss, for that, and if I am his mother, there ain't a sweeter, dearer, better boy lives than him. And if I ain't much as says it, there ain't a sweeter, dearer angel or teacher lives than he's got." Miss Mary, sitting primly behind her desk, with a ruler over her shoulder, opened her gray eyes widely at this, but said nothing. "It ain't for you to be complimented by the likes of me, I know," she went on hurriedly. "It ain't for me to be comin' here in broad day to do it either, but I come to ask a favor. Not for me, miss, not for me, but for the darlin' boy." Encouraged by a look in the young schoolmistress's eye, and putting her lilac-gloved hands together, the ringers downward between her knees, she went on, in a low voice. "You see, miss, there's no one the boy has any claim on but me, and I ain't the proper person to bring him up. I thought some last year of sending him away to Frisco to school, but when they talked of bringing a schoolma'am here, I waited till I saw you, and then I knew it was all right, and I could keep my boy a little longer. And oh, miss, he loves you so much, and if you could hear him talk about you in his pretty way, and if he could ask you what I ask you now, you couldn't refuse him. It is natural," she went on rapidly, in a voice that trembled strangely between pride and humility. "It's natural that he should take on you, miss, for his father, when I first knew him, was a gentleman, and that boy must forget me sooner or later, and so I ain't a-going to cry about that, for I come to ask you to take my Tommy, God bless him for the bestest, sweetest boy that lives, to take him with you." She had risen and caught the young girl's hand in her own, and had fallen on her knees beside her. "I've money plenty, and it's all yours and his. Put him in some good school where you can go and see him, and help him to forget his mother. Do with him what you like. The worst you can do will be kindness to what he will learn with me. Only take him out of this wicked life, this cruel place, this home of shame and sorrow. You will, I know you will, won't you? You will. You must not, you cannot say no. You will make him as pure, as gentle as yourself, and when he is grown up you will tell him his father's name, the name that hasn't passed my lips for years, the name of Alexander Morton, whom they call here Sandy. Miss Mary, do not take your hand away. Miss Mary, speak to me. You will take my boy. Do not put your face from me. I know it ought not look on such matters as me. Miss Mary, my God, be merciful! She is leaving me." Miss Mary had risen, and in the gathering twilight had felt her way to the open window. She stood there, leaning against the casement, her eyes fixed on the last rosy tints that were fading from the western sky. There was still some of its light on her pure young forehead, on her white collar, on her clasped white hands, but all fading slowly away. The suppliant had dragged herself, still on her knees, beside her. "I know it takes time to consider. I will wait here all night, but I cannot go until you speak. Do not deny me now. You will. I see it in your sweet face. Such a face as I have seen in my dreams. I see it in your eyes. Miss Mary, you will take my boy." The last red beam crept higher, suffused Miss Mary's eyes with something of its glory, flickered, and faded, and went out. The sun had set on Red Gulch. In the twilight and silence, Miss Mary's voice sounded pleasantly. "I will take the boy. Send him to me tonight." The happy mother raised the hem of Miss Mary's skirts to her lips. She would have buried her hot face in its virgin folds, but she dared not. She rose to her feet. "Does this man know of your intention?" asked Miss Mary suddenly. "No, nor cares. He has never seen the child to know it." "Go to him at once, tonight, now. Tell him what you have done. Tell him I have taken his child, and tell him he must never see the child again. Wherever it may be, he must not come. Wherever I may take it, he must not follow. There, go now, please. I'm weary, and have much yet to do." They walked together to the door. On the threshold the woman turned. "Good night." She would have fallen at Miss Mary's feet, but at the same moment the young girl reached out her arms, caught the sinful woman to her own pure breast for one brief moment, and then closed and locked the door. It was with a sudden sense of great responsibility that profane Bill took the reins of the Slumgullion stage the next morning, for the schoolmistress was one of his passengers. As he entered the high road, in obedience to a pleasant voice from the inside, he suddenly reined up his horses and respectfully waited, as Tommy hopped out at the command of Miss Mary. "Not that bush, Tommy, the next." Tommy whipped out his new pocket-knife, and cutting a branch from a tall azalea bush, returned with it to Miss Mary. "All right now?" "All right." And the stage door closed on the Idyl of Red Gulch.